Whenever I hear somebody say, yeah, dude, they need better zone coverage, I usually just think like, yeah, that might be true, but are you just admitting that you get cooked? Like, that's usually what I think when I hear that. What is up, everybody? It is Jake back with the MF Film Room. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on all things EA college football, hit that red subscribe button, hit the like button, and follow me on Twitter and Instagram. If you like college football content, go subscribe to my other channel, Master Football with Jake Posey. Link is in the description. But enough about all that EA college football content. Let's go. All right, guys, I actually just live streamed the other day, and I lost, obviously, because of the lag, whatever. Anyways, played that the other day, getting back in the game. I'm so sorry I've been gone. You're going to be seeing me a lot more. I've kind of found what I want to do, where the direction I want to take my channel and go on. Again, the news is still coming in, and we got to cover it because yesterday at 8 in the morning, my time, Mountain Standard Time, they launched the reveal trailer for EA College Football 26, and it's got a lot of people talking. Let's get into it. So for copyright reasons, I am not going to play it here, but I wanted to make sure that we could discuss it here because the trailer came out. Now, the cool thing about this is, and you're going to hear me in my breakdown of this coming on later when we get to the campus huddle about it, because the campus huddles, everybody remembers when they had the reveal trailer, the campus huddle that came afterwards was exponentially better in terms of the information they were trying to release. The trailer right here is basically just a hype trailer. I will say that it leaned heavily into Road to Glory and a little bit more of the ambient stuff. They had a little clip here from, Virginia Tech with Enter Sandman. That was kind of cool there. But for the most part, leaned into the Road to Glory, showed some of the stuff, kind of just got the hype up. Again, they go more into specifics when we get to that campus huddle. But that doesn't mean people weren't disappointed with this trailer. Check this out. So here we are from College Sports Network. It says that graphics are next level terrible. Fans torch EA Sports college football trailer for underwhelming look. Now, I'm not going to go too much into this. Trust me, I'm not a Ryan Moody type channel. Trust me, you can go access Ryan Moody whenever you want to. If you want the absolutely Skip Bayless breakdown of everything, go check out Ryan Moody. He's popular. Whatever, go check him out. I don't really care. I want to kind of focus on the positives here because there's actually a lot of things that were positive with this, especially a lot of things people have been asking for, namely Road to Glory, a little bit more of that atmosphere environment like you saw with that picture of those drones forming the end for Nebraska, in addition to some upgrades for the gameplay, upgrades for Dynasty mode. Let's get into that campus huddle, which is going to break it all down. So looking at this here, we see the fact that, again, there's only like 5 main areas that they wanted to basically adjust here. Obviously, there's going to be atmosphere. Then there's going to be Road to Glory. There's going to be, Dynasty mode. There's going to be gameplay. And then the last one would probably be, Ultimate Team. So let's break down those 5 areas. So this first sentence here, it says, our vision is what it means to experience college football continues to be wide open, fast-paced, and gameplay that's anchored by a swath of foundational football features like stunts and twists, custom zones, and improved blocking and coverage logic. So in the last game, they didn't have as many stunts and twists as I would have liked. Again, that's how a way that, front 4, if you only rush 4, you can create some artificial pressure that way just because the offensive alignment aren't able to communicate, through some of those. Also it mentions here about utilize dynamic substitutions for easier fatigue management on the field and additional upgrades coming to the wear and tear system. So the cool thing about that is, and they mentioned it a little bit later here, is that they want to have wear and tear a little bit more broad. I feel like in EA College Football 25, it would only be isolated players here and there, basically running back and quarterback when they get jacked up, maybe a receiver, but offensive line, fullbacks, tight ends, not as much. Defense as well. Basically, it's just whoever's on the field most got worn down. I think they're going to have it in a situation where they're going to be able to have it a little bit more interactive. You're actually going to have to coach through, okay, substitute out corner, substitute out this. They haven't gone into specifics of what that's going to be, but that's what I anticipate. They also mentioned here they overhauled the archetypes to encompass the unique skill sets that you see every day and Saturday. The cool thing about the archetypes is that within the last game, you weren't able to switch archetypes for the most part. What you could do is you could switch players around, but if somebody started as a zone safety, they would always stay a zone safety. Whereas you saw in Madden in some of those games, you could be a zone safety, and if you were to develop your big hitting abilities, you could be a run support safety later on. They didn't go into specifics here. Again, not a lot of specifics. This is kind of a 10,000-foot view, but it gives you an idea of what they're looking at doing. They also mentioned here, again, 2,800 new plays, unique schemes like Rice's modern option. I actually haven't looked into Rice's modern option. I love me some slow mesh, by the way. I try to run the slow mesh. It was an absolute nightmare. You need good players to run the slow mesh. It's really, really hard. They also mentioned Penn State's gadget heavy. You remember here with the tight end that they had who got drafted. He would take the ball and he would be a 6'5", 240 pounds, and he would run, he would throw. He did lots of things like that. So that's going to be in the game as well. They also mentioned, and one of the biggest changes here is the coaches are going to be in the game. I think the biggest addition for this is going to be for Dynasty mode, just because Dynasty mode, they're going to interact with them most often. I mean, if you're playing Road to Glory, maybe a little bit there, but like Ultimate Team doesn't really interact with them. Play Now doesn't really interact with them, but having them in the game, especially for Dynasty, again, I'm a big time Dynasty channel here. It's going to be awesome to actually see those coaches move around as opposed to Joe Schmo and Dan Jones and stuff like that. We're going to actually have the players and the coaches that we know and love in the game. Next section here I mentioned is the wear and tear everywhere. So they talk about this here. It says the advanced wear and tear system delivers more realism and is now fully customizable to fit your playstyle. Manage fatigue strategically to save your favorite playmakers for key moments with dynamic substitutions that allow you to rotate players in and out on the fly. No pause screen needed. The good thing about that is as long as it flows well, because it's some people out there, me personally, if somebody's worn, I want a fresh body in there. Even if he's not as good, I want a fresh body in. That's just the way I play. Some people are like, dude, you're the star. Everybody else is booty. You need to stay in the game as long as possible. So that's one of those things where it just depends on who you are. Me being me, I like fresh bodies. Some people want to keep their stars in the game. It sounds like you might be able to adjust that. Also starts with improved coverage to give you confidence in shutting down your opponent and improved blocking to reward players' left stick abilities between the tackles. I think that's a cool thing, especially with the tackles thing, because running the ball, I feel like it's one of those things where running the ball, like there is an art to running back. Patience, slow to, fast through, some of those things that you hear a lot of people talk about. So being able to have the ability with the left stick and really make it shine, I'm looking forward to that. I'm interested to hear what they're saying about the coverage because I know a lot of people, whenever you hear comments, they're like, this is a fix that needs to happen. That's a fix that needs to happen. Whenever I hear somebody say, yeah, dude, they need better zone coverage, I usually just think like, yeah, that might be true, but are you just admitting that you get cooked? Like that's usually what I think when I hear that. They mentioned here about custom zones feature to really dial in your coverage at the line of scrimmage and several new abilities that we can't wait to talk about more in our gameplay deep dive later this summer. I'm really looking forward to that. Again, remember when people were freaking out early? They were freaking out about the boosts in the game. You know, oh, hey, this person's gonna have field general. This person's gonna have that. Oh, it's gonna make the game completely. It's just like superstar abilities in Madden. They were very honed in. You didn't feel like they were too dominant. I will say, Platinum Field General is one of the greatest abilities in modern gaming history, so that one might be adjusted a little bit. But for the most part, the rest of them kind of handled it pretty well. I'm anticipating it'll probably be something like that. They've done a pretty good job of making sure nothing's too overpowered in this game, but again, we will see when it comes out. They also talk about Homefield Advantage 2.0. Now, I don't know how I feel about this one because, like, as an example, like a receiver, there would be certain times if it's really a tough opponent where there just wouldn't be, you couldn't call it audible to a certain player. I didn't mind that. I actually don't mind if they have the ability, if it's hard to call an audible to somebody. But the fact that like the receiver icon would go away or the receiver icon would switch, I actually don't mind if it switches. But I want to make sure they kind of hone that in so it feels a little bit more realistic. A freshman receiver is not going to be like, I don't even know who the left receiver is. I can't throw him the ball. I don't know how realistic that is. But again, we'll see what they want to do here because they're talking about intense camera shake, heads-up visual displays, clock distortion that simulates the high pressure of playing as a visitor in hostile territory. So we'll see what happens with the clock. Hopefully it's not too bad, a bunch of delay of games or things like that. I mean, again, it might be where like the play clock is off or you can't really see the play clock or you have to look at it individually. Again, because like you hear a lot of times with freshman quarterbacks, they don't know the plays. It takes a while to get the play in. That could work, but again, we need to see the execution before it goes through. The next big addition here, they talk about how, Chris Fowler and Jesse Palmer, all those guys are back in the game. One person who was given a fair amount of criticism was Chris Fowler because he would do well and he would be like, and what a huge play. And was like, it wins the national championship as opposed to like, touchdown, which is what he would do in a CFB game. So he actually went back in and adjusted some of those things. That's fair. We'll see what happens when it comes through. The show off your championship section was pretty cool here because they actually talked about how the trophy room is back. The trophy room, it's a small thing. Again, it's almost like mascot mode. It's a small thing. It's cool that it's in there. You can add it in pretty easy. Keep a collections of what you've accumulated over time. It's something that's cool to see. Now, what would be really cool if I could see somebody else's profile. Now, again, you probably have access to that, but I can see somebody else's profile and their trophy room. That would be really cool. Okay, I did this in all my dynasties. I did that in my dynasties. I mean, at the same time, I would want to say like, okay, did you do that by yourself? Was that on, freshman mode? What are we doing about here? Like, that's something I would want to know. But again, it's cool to have that in the game. All right, so Dynasty's got a couple of adjustments here. They're going to have a bigger deep dive later on. I will say crossplay is here for Dynasty mode, which is huge. So if you got your PlayStations, your Xboxes, you guys can play. It still didn't say anything about PC, so just making sure we're aware of that. But crossplay is here, so that's going to be awesome there. 32-person online Dynasty with friends, regardless of the platform. That is going to be sick. Again, I still have my Dynasty. I only have 4 dudes in it, me and 3 others. We've got a pretty good rhythm. It's hard to get a rhythm with Dynasties just because you can tell that, like, certain people are about it. They're trying to play their games. And other people, like, they don't want to adjust. They don't want to learn. I'm with a good core of guys who try and, like, recruit the way that they play, try to, adjust their schemes, try new things. They try to push the limits there. So I'm hoping that happens with a lot of people. But again, I stick with my 4. You can go as high as 32 if you want to. It also mentions here, though, with Dynasty, there's a couple things. Assemble elite staff, upgrade your coaching abilities, and then lay it out all in the field. Navigate the now expanded and more unpredictable transfer portal, featuring thousands of players each year. So the transfer portal, this could be one where there could be like a surprise person. I know that it's going to be tough for them to simulate what happens in real life. What happens in real life is inducement. What happens is, and this is completely illegal, is somebody on LSU is riding the bench or they're upset. Somebody from Texas A&M calls them up, and no offense to these programs. Again, this is all, just used as an example. I don't know the specifics here. Somebody from Texas A&M calls up and says, what are you getting, 500K? $1 million to come here. Now, maybe not those exact numbers, maybe not those exact schools. That 100% happens in college football. Is that going to happen in this game? Like, could a user... They won't do that. Previous games before, they actually had one where you could go up and you could celebrate with the mascot. And then the NCAA was like, that's a penalty. You take that out of the game. We don't want to be incentivizing people to have bad, penalties in the game. Same thing. We don't want to incentivize people to cheat, even though that's exactly what's happening. So we'll see what happens there. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, somebody's totally happy and then they enter the transfer portal. That's something that happens all the time. I bet it's probably to kind of simulate them being induced in, but that's just my theory there. You guys let me know what you guys think. It also mentions here personnel management has never been more important, with new location-based visits having the potential to give your program an advantage in recruiting. I don't know exactly what that means, but I want to kind of figure it out. Land critical talent for your team by managing the new dynamic deal breakers. Love that. And traits while trying to retain your favorite playmakers and cement your program's legacy. So some of the traits might be like, this person is all about the dollars, okay? You offer me 800 grand, they offer me 850, I'm going over there. Certain players are totally like that. As much as it kind of hurts to say that, it's absolutely a real thing. Dynamic deal breakers could be a situation where, like, yeah, you know what, I like this, but then this is so good, I actually am going to stay because of that. Or I like this, but this is so bad, I'm going to leave because of that. Again, I'm not sure how it's going to work. That might be one perspective. You guys let me know what you guys think. They also mentioned here, and this is really, really cool. So one thing that kind of sucked is that you weren't able to have protected opponents. First of all, the dynasty scheduling thing sucked because if you had an 8-game conference schedule, there were some years where it should be 4 home, 4 away. There's some years where it'd be 2 home, 6 away. Some years 6 home, 2 away. It just didn't make any sense there. If they can hone that in, and again, if there's a 9-game conference schedule and it's 5 one year and 4 the next, and then it's 4 one year and then 5 the next in terms of home and away, I'm totally fine with that. That's realistic. But never in college football where there'll be 6 home games in conference and 2 away games. They have to address that. It sounds like with this protected opponents here, they're talking about formation substitutions. So they have those in terms of the right stick during the play, but not before the game. Like before the game, you could be like, no, in this formation, I want this guy in. You were able to do that in NCAA Football 2014, EA College Football 26. You should be able to do that too. Protected opponents is one of those things where, like, listen, we're in the SEC, there's 16 teams, but Texas and Oklahoma are playing each other every year. Again, right now, you could put them in the same conference, and there's no guarantee that they play each other. Having those protected opponents, hopefully multiple, will be something that will be really cool going forward. All right, and now my channel, I'll let you guys know when we get to the section that talks about Ultimate Team. I'm going to let you guys know I'm just not an Ultimate Team guy. Is what it is. There's plenty of people out there. Go find them. No hate, no shame in the game. Just not my cup of tea. However, I will be getting into a little bit more of Road to Glory because it sounds like they've addressed some things that people were talking about before. The Road to Glory, it sounds like there's so many cool things involved with this here. Talks about how, again, you see the hat ceremony right there, how you're going to be able to select your school. Apparently, you're also going to be able to decommit from your school, which means in high school, you commit to somebody, you decommit. Again, it's trying to simulate real life, and that's one of those ugly things that is real. It might not be super cool decommitting, but at the same time, well, cool for the school that got the decommit. But anyways, let's check this out. So it says here you can choose from 10 new archetypes and rise from high school recruit to Heisman glory. And every decision shaping your career will look. Build your highlight tape and earn an offer from your dream school and make that decision in the famous hat ceremony. Now, the one thing about this that makes you want to know is the archetypes. So previously, before, I don't know what they mean by archetype. Is archetype different players? Is archetype like, okay, you're going to be a scrambling quarterback, you're going to be a throwing quarterback? Or is archetype going to be like, okay, well, you're a previously what they had was they had basically stars. You're a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 star, something like that. Now there's 10. I don't really know what they're going to do there. You guys get in the comments and let me know what you guys think about the archetypes. I'm not quite sure. This is one where I literally I have some ideas for some of the other things in this video or in the game, but absolutely no idea for Road to Glory archetypes. You guys let me know. It also talks about building coach trust here. We already know the cool thing about this game. You build coach trust. You take your player from high school to college, then to pro. Again, that's the one thing they were talking about previously with the whole Madden and EA college football bundle. So that's something you can do there. You can commit early or you can decommit. So again, this is pretty cool how they're kind of doing this. Go to Madden 26 from there. So we'll see what happens there. But again, they put a lot of time and effort into Road to Glory for sure. It has a snippet here about College Ultimate Team. They're going to have something here about that more specifically. Again, if you're an Ultimate Team person, go find the person who does that kind of stuff. I'm not really into it, but again, you guys do your thing on that. It also mentions here about Road to College Football Playoff. It doesn't look like they had very many adjustments there. They did mention that your personal trophy room will have some things in there, so that'll be kind of a cool addition there. But it sounds like generally that kind of like the template there is kind of set for the road to the CFP. And last but not least, TeamBuilder, I kind of put in Dynasty just because, I mean, you can make a team and play now with them, but generally, if you make a team, you want to build that program up. You want to put them in a Dynasty. So we're talking about TeamBuilder with this. So it says, import your custom teams from last year seamlessly, ensuring your favorite created teams can be brought over. With new features in TeamBuilder, you can refine your team's details and explore enhanced roster editing options, allowing for greater control over your identity and legacy. Stay tuned for the Dynasty Deep Dive to learn more about these features and how they'll elevate your gaming experience. So with that, and again, I think what that is there is that previously what you had to do is that if you replaced New Mexico, you had New Mexico's roster, or you could elect if they wanted that roster or not. You can have New Mexico's roster. You could, if you replace somebody else, you could duplicate their roster. There's little things like that you could do. There's a couple stock rosters. I'm hoping they give you more stock rosters. I'm also hoping they fix the stadium situation. There should be some generic stadiums. A stadium builder would be pretty simple in the game. You can build your field, you could build your stadium, you build your backdrop. You should have a couple again, if they do this once, they can do this one time and just get a couple backdrops, get a couple different types of stadiums, have the fields, and there'll be plenty of personalization that it will feel unique to itself. Hopefully they get that, but again, they're talking about that later on, so we'll see what they do. That's the one thing that's kind of upsetting is that it kind of ruins the atmosphere when I was playing with my team that was supposed to be in Jacksonville, Florida, but they were playing in, the Raiders Stadium, the Allegiant Stadium, and it would say, well, we'll see you back in Vegas, even though it was Florida. Again, it was some of those weird things there. Hopefully they can get rid of that, and we'll see what they mean by your team's details and enhanced roster editing options. I'm looking forward to it, though. So there were certain people that were kind of upset at the trailer. They're like, oh, the graphics, isn't that? Personally, there's going to be a point where graphics cannot get any better. You're going to start to have like inserts in your eyes in order to feel like you see the sweat glands. I'm not so worried about that graphics so much. I want to see some polishing with some of the systems they came out with. Last year's game had a really good job. They did a really good job with atmosphere, and they did a pretty good job with gameplay, considering the fact. Hopefully they can polish some things there and include some more, features to kind of iron some things out. I'm really looking forward to what they're talking about with the recruits in Dynasty mode. Road to Glory looks like it got a ton of love. So if you're a Road to Glory person, you're really going to enjoy that. Again, I found a lot to like out of here, but you guys get in the comments and let me know what you guys think. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. Remember, please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I really appreciate it. That's it for me, guys. I'll see you guys later. I am out.